Major breaking news in the continuing scandal. There's really no other word for it involving Donald Trump and Russia. Recall that former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn was forced to resign, I believe it was early last week, in shame, just a few weeks into the Trump administration, because it was revealed that he had lied about the nature of his contacts with the Russian ambassador to the U.S. during a time before Trump's inauguration, including having had discussions about Russian sanctions. This bolstered the case that funny stuff is going on with Russia and the Trump administration. It led to calls for a special prosecutor and a broader investigation, both things that many Republicans have rejected. Truly embarrassing, sad, low energy. But that is not it. It's worse. It has now surfaced that Donald Trump's Attorney General, Jeff Sessions, was also in touch with the Russian ambassador during the election, and he also appears to have lied about it. Put your seatbelts on, get the kids out of the room. It's getting bad. Twice last year, Jeff Sessions spoke with the Russian ambassador, according to Justice Department officials, his own staff, and did not disclose either encounter when asked about possible contacts between members of Trump's team and Russian representatives. Imagine that. Hey, did any Trump people have contact with Russia, Mr. Sessions? No, none. Oh, I mean me, but no, nobody at all. Right in the middle of what we now know to have been Russia's cyber campaign to help Donald Trump win the election, Jeff Sessions had a meeting with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak in Sessions' own office. And of course, the lies, lies, lies. Here's video from Jeff Sessions' January 10th confirmation hearing, where Senator Al Franken asked a very straightforward question. What would you do if you learned of any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government during the 2016 campaign? Jeff Sessions opting to, volunteering that he didn't have any contact with any Russian officials. We now know that to be untrue.
If it's true, it's obviously extremely serious. And if there is any evidence that anyone affiliated with the Trump campaign communicated with the Russian government in the course of this campaign, what will you do?
Senator Franken, I'm not aware of any of those activities. I have been called a surrogate at a time or two in that campaign, and I not have communications with the Russians, and I'm unable to comment on it.
Very well.
I'm not aware, he said. I mean, I did it myself, but I don't know of anyone who did this, and I certainly didn't. Jeff Sessions was under oath at this time. If you can prove both intent, intent is the key aspect of this, and that there was a false statement made, that is called perjury, a felony that provides for a prison sentence of up to 5 years. More on that later. But it wasn't just once. Senator Patrick Leahy, during these confirmation hearings of Jeff Sessions, submitted questions in writing to Sessions. One of those questions, I think you know where I'm going with this, was, have you been in contact with anyone connected to any part of the Russian government about the 2016 election, either before or after Election Day? Sessions responded with a single word answer. It was a two-letter word. That word was no. Now, justice officials are defending this on the basis of a technicality. They're saying, well, yes, Sessions was a Trump surrogate at the time, and yes, he met with the Russian ambassador, but he met with the Russian ambassador not as a Trump surrogate, but as a member of the Armed Services Committee. Justice officials are also defending this by saying, hey, he is, after all, on the Armed Services Committee, totally normal to meet with the Russian ambassador. However, as Steve Ginsburg from the Washington Post tweeted earlier today, no one else on the Senate Armed Services Committee met with the Russian ambassador. So if it's completely normal, Pat, for someone from that committee to meet with the Russian ambassador, why was Jeff Sessions the only guy to do it?
There's so many other things that could make this less sketchy. So, for example, if he also met with France and UK and South Africa, for example, or if other members of this committee had also met with the Russians, that also would make it less sketchy. Not only did he do it, he also lied about it. This is the top lawyer in the country. He should know that's clearly perjury.
And if he's going to rest on the technicality that he didn't meet with anyone from Russia for anything related to the campaign, if you're going to be, at the time he was going to be the top lawyer of the United States, and you can't think about how answering the way you answered on the basis of that semantic game, That's not necessarily who I want as the top lawyer of the United States. And this makes it much harder to believe that this meeting was about something not related to the campaign, because again, as I said, as Pat said, nobody else met with the Russian ambassador, and Sessions did not really meet with other ambassadors either. It's not even a simple lie. The simple lie would be he knew about someone meeting with Russians but lied. Here it was him who met with Russians and said he doesn't know of anybody having met with Russians. Many Democrats calling for resignation, including Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi. You have other Democrats and Republicans calling for Jeff Sessions to recuse himself from the investigation into contacts between Trump and Russia. Think about how insane this has gotten. You still have people saying, hey, I don't know anything. Trump-Russia doesn't make any sense to me. You have an investigation into contacts between Trump and Russia. And the guy running the department involved in the investigation lied about his own contacts with Russia while he was a surrogate of the Trump campaign.
And Trump still claims that his administration is a well-oiled machine.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, first it was Michael Flynn. Now we're learning about Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen. And then there's people who just blatantly have ties to Russia, don't even hide it. Paul Manafort, his old campaign manager, and Rex Tillerson, his Secretary of State.
His Secretary of State made a career on contacts with Russia. There's not even any question about it. If you thought before that we didn't need a special prosecutor because Jeff Sessions as Attorney General was going to look into this for us, now that Sessions is involved and appears to have lied, are we now ready to say we need a special prosecutor? And if not now, then when? Will we ever see perjury charges against Sessions? I say absolutely not. You need both. You need to prove both. That the individual in question made a false statement while under oath, plus you need to prove intent. And it's very tough to do, especially when you're talking about senators, members of an administration who can say, listen, at the time it was the best of my recollection. And obviously, think about what we've heard from Sessions. First, he said, no, I had no meetings. Then he said, oh, I do remember the meetings, but I don't remember what we talked about. And now all of a sudden he remembers that they didn't talk about anything related to the campaign. If this continues to blow up, that will probably be the defense, Pat, which is Sessions misspoke, misunderstood the question, or didn't remember the details at the time.
But I mean, he just said no flat out in writing. Usually these lawyers are smart enough to say, to the best of my recollection, to the best of my knowledge. He didn't preface it with any of that.
Yeah, that's a common one. As far as I can currently remember, Senator, no, I did not have any such meetings. What an absolute and utter scandal. And people still, I'm still talking to people who email me or on Reddit, online, Twitter, et cetera, who say, David, I genuinely don't think that the Russian hacking influenced the election. That's not the Russia story now. That the actual hacking and whether it impacted the election is 5% of the entire story now, given everything that's come up. And I'm repeatedly telling people, Pat, if you're only thinking about the hacking part, the story has gone so far beyond that at this point.
We have to reach the collusion angle, I think, until we get to the actual bombshell here.
Yeah.
But the pieces are in place. I mean, the writing's on the wall at this point.
I used to say drip, drip, drip. It's more now like a free-flowing faucet. I don't think it's a high-flow shower head now, that it's no longer a drip.